It's called the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, you'll know it as, and it's the peak organisation designed to champion economic progress and trade. It's headquartered in Paris. It emerged in the wake of World War II to administer the Marshall Plan, which helped transform Europe from a state of ruin to an economic powerhouse. Well, now it's a truly global institution with 37 member countries, of course, including Australia. And for the first time in its history, it will be led by one of our own. After former Finance Minister Mathias Cormann won a nail-biter of a contest to be elected the next Secretary-General of the OECD. Mathias Cormann joins me now from Perth. Well, Mathias, I tell you what, everything you've set out to do in life, doesn't matter how big that mountain is to climb, you seem to do it. It's an extraordinary achievement. Congratulations. Tell us, what will it mean for Australia having you in charge of the OECD?
Well, I mean, Australia is a globally focused, open trading economy. We very much depend on the strength and the performance of the global economy. And indeed, I mean, we are here in the middle of the Asia-Pacific, which is where most of the global growth will be generated for some time to come, which is where a lot of the strategic issues are playing out as we speak. Clearly, I will take all of the experiences and all of the knowledge that I've acquired as a Senator for Western Australia and a Minister for Finance in the Australian government with me into this new role. And in the end, it's important for Australia, for the global economy to operate to its best potential, as it is important for every trading economy around the world to operate to its best potential. And so to the extent that the OECD can help deliver better policies and help governments around the world pursue sound economic and fiscal and social and environmental policy reforms, well, then that is something that will also be of benefit here in Australia.
Your detractors, the Greens, and according to reports Malcolm Turnbull as well, attacked your personal record, but the government's record too, on the issue of climate change. In a report in The Australian today, though, Dennis Shanahan said you took it head on. You absolutely took your member countries through the detail of Australia's record. I think that's perhaps what surprised them, because despite what they're told overseas, Australia's actually done quite an extraordinary job going right back to Kyoto. How did that play out?
Well, firstly, I don't necessarily accept, all of the premise of that question. I don't necessarily, accept some of the rumours that, in relation to what may or may not have been said. But what I would say, in relation to our performance on climate change, what I have, whenever that issue was raised, I did point out very clearly that Australia is committed to ambitious and effective action on climate change, that we have a track record of meeting and exceeding our emissions reduction targets. We not just met but exceeded our Kyoto 1 and Kyoto 2 targets. We are on track to meet our 2030 emissions reduction targets, and with a 50% reduction in emissions on a per capita basis and a two-thirds, like a 67% reduction in terms of emissions intensity in the economy. Ours is one of the more ambitious targets, globally. And of course, we are one of the world leaders when it comes to the level of investment in renewable energy. We've got the highest penetration of rooftop solar in the world. So we do have a good story to tell. But I guess, the point that I've made is that different parts of the world came into this challenge from a different starting position and face different overall circumstances. And what we need is we need to be united in the same mission of reaching zero net emissions by 2050. But we do have to have some flexibility for different parts of the world to pursue measures in a way that makes sense in their own circumstances, and it's got to be part of a globally coordinated, multilaterally coordinated effort. But it's not. It can't ever be a one-size-fits-all approach, because not every country finds itself in the same circumstances. And the OECD here has an important role to play. I think that in terms of really providing more objectively comparable data on actual performance, in providing some proper or some more substantial policy analysis on some of the different approaches that are being pursued in different parts of the world.
Yeah, well, I think the facts are important because we often know overseas the facts are a long way away from some of the messages being sent about Australia's position on climate change and our record. You're the first Australian, as I said. You're also the first from our region, the Indo-Pacific region. 26 of the 37 OECD members are European. Are you going to be able to pivot, do you think, the OECD to look towards our region so that we can perhaps be a little more influential in some of these debates?
Well, look, I mean, I think across Europe, governments across Europe are very conscious of the importance of the Indo-Pacific, moving forward. I mean, already right now, but increasingly so moving forward, which is why we received a very good reception when we argued the case that the OECD needed to strengthen its focus and its engagement across the Indo-Pacific. I mean, the fact that I was able to combine both a European background with my Australian and Asia-Pacific experience and networks, was one of the selling points throughout this selection process, and that's certainly going to be one of the priority areas, under my leadership.
All right, it's a 5-year appointment. They tend to stay for 10 to 15 years, Mathias Cormann. When do you head off?
Well, the job starts on 1 June. It's just been formally confirmed. I've had an initial conversation with Angel Gurria, the outgoing Secretary-General, and I'm starting the conversations, with all of the key senior staff as part of an orderly transition. But over the next few weeks or so, we'll get clarity on when precisely I'll make the move.
Well, the appointment couldn't have happened to a better bloke, Mathias Cormann. All the best and congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Peter.